An absolute nightmare for drivers in Atlanta to tell you about. Take a look. This is Interstate 85 where it actually caught on fire today. As if that wasn't bad enough, it actually just the interstate there collapsed altogether. The governor at one point today declaring a state of emergency in this area. A bit of good news in all of this. Unbelievably, no one was hurt here. We do know that 3 people have been charged with setting this fire. Keith McGilvery here in the Channel 3 studios. This afternoon, we're following a developing story out of downtown Burlington where city police confirmed to us that one individual has been stabbed here near the intersection of Church and Cherry Street. If you know the area, that's right by the Ben & Jerry's Scoop Shop downtown. An individual reportedly stabbed in the neck. We are told a suspect is in custody. Our reporter Priscilla Ligori is out here at the scene. The very latest on this developing situation we will have coming up tonight starting at 5 o'clock. Also check out WCX.com. We have the latest information. But again, one individual stabbed in downtown Burlington near the intersection of Church and Cherry Street this afternoon. We were following this story. We'll have the very latest at 5 o'clock. See you then. All right, so we're over here on our video wall, and for good reason, because you mess with a bull, you get the horns, and that's what nearly happened. Watch this in Texas. A police officer actually trying to corner this bull here, and if we wait for it, watch what happens. This guy is having nothing to do with it, comes charging right for him. Luckily, that officer was quick, gets away. Let's take another look at it. Just absolutely wild as he barrels through that fence. That bull still on the loose tonight, and a quick thinking officer there able to get away. Stay out of that guy's way for sure. We sure are, Kristen and Darren. In addition to the heavy state police presence, you can probably hear state police dogs. The fire engines are here as well. The road into Essex High School, that is shut down. It's all part of a coordinated effort to keep this campus safe. Coming up at 5:30, Gary Margolis, a campus security expert, the former police chief at the University of Vermont, will join me to talk about how to make sure this effort goes as smoothly as possible and what needs to be done to make sure kids in these communities and others are kept safe when a situation like this unfolds. That's just ahead tonight at 5:30. That's right, Darren and Kristen. The campus of Essex High School still flooded tonight with first responders. Coming up after the break, what role social media may have played in the threat we saw today, plus an emotional day for parents and students. What's next for them? An expert joins me after the break. Stick around. Kristen and Darren, we are talking security out here. There's very much still a coordinated effort. State police out here, firefighters as well, local authorities, and that's exactly what it should look like, according to campus security expert Gary Margolis. He is the former police chief at the University of Vermont, but these days he is coordinating with schools all across the country to make sure that they have a plan in place to keep students safe if a situation like this arises. So I asked him this afternoon, I said, hey, some threats get incredible responses like the one that we've seen here, and others, the response is significantly smaller. I asked him why that's the case, and he says that while authorities may not reveal what they actually found, that there was enough credible information to have a response the size that we've seen to execute that safety plan that districts create and have in place. He says from his perspective, that safety plan was executed pretty well today. I asked him his advice for parents who have students concerned about returning to school tomorrow. So Darren and Kristen, a number of students still around out here today. Within the last minute or so, vehicles have exited the property, at least one of them. Students were sent home from school hours ago. I said, so why this presence? Why is everybody still here so many hours later? And Gary Margolis tells me it could be a number of reasons. He says they could be still doing security checks, a final sweep of security checks within the building, but he says it's more likely that they're doing an after action review, kind of going over how things were executed today, if that plan went smoothly, if there were improvements that they could make. He says that's most likely what's happening right now, leading to the presence that we are still seeing here. Gary Margolis is going to join us again at 6:30, looking at how social media may have played a role in what we've seen today and his advice for parents talking to their kids. Darren and Kristen.
Keith McGilvery live in Essex Junction. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. We are live at Essex High School. Still a very active scene with first responders here responding to that threat we've been telling you about. But Gary Margolis is here as well. He is the former police chief at the University of Vermont. But today his company is working with schools all across the country to recognize threats on social media to try to prevent situations like what we have seen today. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
We are learning that it looks like social media may have at least been one of many factors in the situation today. You don't sound surprised.
I'm not surprised.
Former Channel 3 reporter Alex Apple is vying for a shot at $1 million prize, but he's going to have to survive being stranded on an island first. Here's a clip of him on the new MTV reality show, Stranded with $1 million. Peg from accounting made you these palm tree cookies. We need to fatten you back up.
I'll share. That's right.
Best of luck. So good to see you.
Thanks so much. Good to see you as well.
Kyle? The UVM Catamounts are headed for the NCAA tournament after a big win over Albany. Coach John Becker, he was supposed to join us tonight, but the team is ready for this winter weather, Mike, and they say, hey, we're getting out of town early to make sure we can get there.
Yes.
But the great Mike McCune is here to tell us all about it. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
You were at this game Saturday morning. I saw highlights. It looked electric.
It was.
A winter whiteout with about a foot of snow in most parts of Vermont, with howling winds hitting almost 30 miles an hour, and it's going to keep up all night. It is tonight's top story. While we hunker down and wait out a blizzard, the UVM Hoopcats are in Milwaukee getting ready for their March Madness showdown with Purdue. Our sports anchor Scott Fleischman traveling with the Hoopcats beat the weather live in Milwaukee tonight. Scott, so glad you made it.
Let's go to my co-anchor Keith McGilvery, who is live at Essex High School.
Eva, good evening. News of an armed suspect sent Essex High School into lockdown today, and tonight the search for a suspect continues. A chilling phone call sent first responders racing toward Essex High School,
who indicated that unless we met certain demands that he was going to do harm at the Essex High School.
Captain George Murdy says the man claimed to be armed and was making detailed threats.
More information than the school's going to blow up or something like that.
The high school went into lockdown for hours, and so did schools across the district, as the FBI, state police, and local authorities searched the campus looking for clues.
There was no known threat that was located either outside, no weapons, no person that had a weapon inside the school.
As the investigation continues, Captain Murdy says future charges could depend on what investigators are able to uncover.
There's a variety of charges, from just calling in a bomb threat to, depending on how much intent was there. Was there an actual plan to do some harm?
Yes.
Now, we are learning tonight that investigators did interview one person in connection to the incident here at Essex High School, determining that that person was not involved in any way at all. As the search for the actual suspect continues, students are sharing with us the details of their scary day at school. It was a day at school Charlotte Klink will never forget.
It was scary. It was really scary.
The same goes for classmate Carl Fung.
This is a lockdown, and this is not a drill. The school is in lockdown.
All of a sudden, we heard the announcement to lock the doors and shut them and turn off the lights.
These Essex High School students are just two of hundreds who bunkered down in their classrooms Wednesday after a phoned-in threat to police targeting their school.
We proceeded to lock the doors and hide in the corner. I crawled underneath the table.
Klink captured this video with her cell phone as armed officers searched the hallways.
It didn't really hit us that it was real until we saw that, and we were all just in shock.
The scariest moment for me was when someone in the opposing room dropped their metal water bottles. It made this enormous clanking sound. And
students and teachers sat for hours waiting for the all clear.
I had no access to my parents or contacts or or just anyone else.
It was very overwhelming, not knowing when you could leave, and just being in a dark room with a bunch of people. It's just really overwhelming.
Overwhelming, to say the least, for students who have class Thursday.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be a little bit shaken up from this event happening.
In a statement late tonight from the superintendent, we learned that police will be back out here tomorrow during the day as a precaution. Meanwhile, the search for the actual suspect here, that continues. Anyone with any information, any tip, large or small, asked to call the Essex Police Department. Eva?
All right, thank you, Keith. Continue our coverage now of the Essex school threat. Keith McGilvery rejoins us now live at the scene in Essex Junction.
Hi, Eva. Yes, Essex High School was shut down earlier today because of a report of an armed suspect threatening the campus students. They were eventually sent home, but this campus very much back open tonight. A community meeting wrapping up just a handful of minutes ago or so. And of course, the plan here is that this place will be bustling with students and teachers again tomorrow. Of course, Channel 3 will continue to cover this story as this situation unfolds and this investigation continues. Eva, tomorrow morning on the Channel 3 Morning News starting at 5 o'clock, we will have some advice from a school security expert for parents to share with their kids if they're uneasy or feeling awkward or uncomfortable about returning to school in the morning. Some tips from a school security expert to share with students. Eva?
All right, thank you, Keith.
From WCAX, first in news, this is the Channel 3 News.
A man was stabbed to death at one of Vermont's most popular destinations. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Keith McGilvery. An investigation is underway into how the violence erupted on Church Street, and that's where we find the night team's Priscilla Ligori with the latest on this developing story. Priscilla? The deadly day on Church Street is raising concerns about mental health, safety downtown, and whether the police chief and his department are on the right track. Mayor Moreau Weinberger joined me tonight in studio. A man killed today in broad daylight on Vermont's most iconic street. How did this happen? Mr. Mayor, respectfully, isolated or not, somebody was stabbed to death on Church Street. The marketplace says they see 3 million people visit this area every year. What do you say to folks who have concerns about bringing their kids here, their families here, sending a student to UVM? I mean, the scene there was gruesome this afternoon.
This was an isolated incident between two individuals with a troubled history. Mental
health experts in our community tell us this was just a matter of time before this happened in this area. What do you say to them? By my count, this is the second homeless person to end up dead as part of a violent episode in the city in the last year. What is your message to the police chief? What are you telling him?
One of the safest cities in the country.
Now, the mayor does tell me the city has made progress tackling chronic homelessness in the city and that it's dropped about 30% in recent years. Well, there is still no arrest in a Montpelier murder. Police say 29-year-old Javon Caballero gunned down the mental health worker Marcus Austin back in January, right after state police say Caballero hopped on a Greyhound bus and just disappeared. State police say it's hard to stay underground and that they're confident he's getting help. Police are offering tipsters up to $5 grand for information that helps them track down and arrest Caballero. In national news tonight, at least 12 people are dead in Texas after a head-on collision between a church bus and a pickup truck. Meg Oliver has the details. Welcome back, everyone, here alongside meteorologist Nick Borelli. We're at the video wall, and for good reason tonight, because we are hearing from folks about this weather on social media.
Earlier this evening, I posted kind of a first look at this upcoming storm and what it might bring, and certainly gets folks talking. We saw that.
Yeah, so this first one, Ricky Roberts, he says, "This is awesome. Looks like a trip to Magic Mountain to get in a day of skiing would be a really great idea."
Ricky's my kind of guy. That's how I think. But Josh also seems to appreciate the snow, and for a different reason. He says, sweet, hopefully a little more plowing money. So that's definitely a different perspective.
We'll get in a few more. Mary Brusso says, I'm with you, Mary. She goes, someone didn't get the spring memo.
Yeah, and that includes Mr. Groundhog, who...
A Vermont dairy producer has been bought by a big national brand. Vermont Creamery announced today that it has been sold to Minnesota-based Land O'Lakes. The Vermont company started more than 30 years ago. It's known for its high-quality butter, goat, and cow cheeses. Land O'Lakes says the operation and its employees will remain in Vermont. The cost of this deal, well, that wasn't released. Now to a very bizarre and very tragic story out of Indonesia. A 25-year-old man has been swallowed whole by a python. You were seeing that snake there. Villagers began searching for the man Monday night after realizing he hadn't returned from work the previous day. The giant snake found right by where this man went missing, and villagers, they ended up slicing open the python and finding that man's body inside. Now, reports of human beings being killed by pythons are extremely, just very, very rare in the wild. They are known to eat monkeys, pigs, and other mammals. Still ahead tonight, an update on a data breach that hit close to 200,000 Vermonters. And President Trump tapping an ally to take on the war on opiates. Plus, who does it best? A milking competition between Vermont dairy farmers and the pros at Nintendo. On the Channel 3 News at 11 continues. We are learning more tonight on the massive data breach that compromised personal information of about 182,000 Vermonters. The Vermont Department of Labor said that when their contract with JobLink is up at the end of June, they may sever those ties. Now, JobLink is a system the Labor Department uses to help job seekers. In a statement this morning, the department said the governor has directed them to issue a request for proposals and put the contract out for bid. That's significant because the state has partnered with JobLink since 2003. Now, if you were affected by this breach, you should get an email starting on Friday. Welcome back, everyone. Britain plans to leave the European Union within the next 2 years. The UK's Prime Minister made that announcement today. Back here at home, President Trump has picked New Jersey Governor Chris Christie in the fight against the opiate drug abuse epidemic. Christie will head a special commission to work with state and local governments, including police and doctors, to figure out the best way to deal with the opiate abuse problem. The Trump administration has said the opioid addiction crisis is a priority. Christie, a former prosecutor, says he'll focus on increased law enforcement and addiction treatment. An American city is suing the maker of the OxyContin drug. Everett, Washington claims its heroin crisis is fueled by the aggressive distribution and abundant supply of pain pills from Purdue Pharma. The lawsuit claims Purdue, quote, knowingly, recklessly, and or negligently supplied OxyContin to suspicious physicians and pharmacies. Purdue Pharma says it has a strong record of working with law enforcement, and information it's provided in some drug cases have led to convictions. The Clinton County Coalition to Prevent Suicide has a new resource to help people who have lost loved ones from suicide. Today, well, we were loving this story today. Still ahead on the news at 11, farmers versus Nintendo gamers, a virtual milking competition. Still to come. All right. Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
Still to come at 11 o'clock. Take a look. A Vermont farm going head-to-head with a video game company. Up next. A Woodstock farm squared off against a video game giant in a milking contest. Love this. But the contest didn't exactly involve real cows. The Billings Farm and Museum reached out on social media to Nintendo, saying their cow milking video game looked slow and wanted to challenge them to a face-off. Nintendo accepted the challenge. They flew in this crew from California right to the farm to go head-to-head in a room filled with Jersey cows. Now, the milk-off is part of the 1-2 switch game that came out earlier this month. Who do you think won? The gamers came out on top, but say when it comes to milking a real cow, they will leave that to the farmers. Sounds like a good idea. Well, stick around, everyone. Scott Fleischman up next with sports. Good idea. How are we doing weather-wise?
Weather-wise, we're doing great tomorrow, but then we have this winter storm that's going to be moving in on Friday and Saturday. The potential is there for accumulating snow area-wide with perhaps a half foot or more in some places. Southern sections stand the best bet at this point for that. That could change, though. That's why you want to see Gary tomorrow morning starting at 5.
All right. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for choosing us tonight. Have a good night, everyone.